Did you guys know that Joe Biden is actually a socialist? That's what you're being told, at least, if you've been watching the Republican National Convention, the RNC. They've been saying that in every speech. Basically, Joe Biden is a socialist that wants to destroy the American way of life. But Bernie Sanders, in an email to his supporters, basically said, if only that were true. If only it were true that Joe Biden was a socialist. We know he isn't. Bernie says the following in his email, and I just want to read it to you because I think it really captures just how absurd it is what the Republican Party is saying about Bernie and Biden and the Democratic Party, but also how cool it would be if it was even partially true. Bernie says, friends, if you have watched the first 2 nights of the Republican National Convention, and I am sorry if you have probably seen speaker after speaker accuse Joe Biden and the Democratic Party of being socialists, who, if elected, will carry out the agenda of Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Ilhan Omar. If only that were true. Bernie, I couldn't have said it better myself. If only it were true, and this is something I've been noting time and time again, on this channel since Biden locked up the nomination, and a lot of the attacks on him have been based on the idea that he's listening to Bernie Sanders and AOC and Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, the left, and they're controlling Biden. Again, if only that were true. What we've seen is that that's not the case. We know it's not the case. If it was the case, not only would Biden be a far better candidate, I honestly think he'd be doing better in the election, and he'd certainly be doing better in terms of engaging an excited and motivated base of young, diverse progressives. If anything, Biden is ignoring his own milquetoast progressive policies. His progressive policies, which were nowhere near what Bernie's were, but you could at least say, okay, maybe sort of kind of a little bit, it goes in the right direction. He's already moving away from some of those. He's basically tried to walk back a lot of his commitments towards, implementing green energy and phasing out non-green energy, carbon-intensive energy. And his campaign has basically stopped mentioning, at least largely, the idea of a public option. Biden's argument all along was, yes, restore Obamacare, but then add to it a public option. And recently, over the last few weeks, they've barely been saying the public option phrase, and they've basically started to talk about how, the main goal maybe for the first 4 years of the presidency will just be to get Obamacare back to where it was in 2016, which of course is not what he promised. It doesn't fulfill his supposed goal of getting to a universal healthcare system. His public option still leaves 10 million uninsured, but this of course would leave far more uninsured if the public option isn't implemented. And it really shows that Bernie Sanders, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib do not have any sort of actual control over the party infrastructure as it exists. And so Republicans can lie and lie and lie about it, but it just isn't true. It isn't true. And again, I would be the first one here telling you if it was, because I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it would be something to hide. I think it would be something to celebrate, because I honestly believe Bernie Sanders having greater control over the platform, especially if he was the nominee, would be leading to a bigger lead in the polling versus what Joe Biden's lead is right now. Because yeah, some moderates wouldn't be with him, but he would win over all of the disaffected progressives. And I honestly believe there's a lot of people out there that have never been approached by the politics of Bernie Sanders, and they would be with him. A lot of traditional conservative voters that don't really understand what Bernie's vision is and would actually be won over by it. That's my viewpoint. We saw all the time Bernie Sanders went on Fox News and would really, really impress audiences of regular working class people, often from conservative parts of blue states or from, red states broadly defined. Bernie got the job done at impressing the Fox News media base. And that's pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive from my perspective. So that's my wish here, that, the Republican propaganda could manifest itself into reality. That what they're saying about Joe Biden, especially in terms of how he's in the pocket of Bernie and of big unions and of special interests bent on destroying the carbon fuel industry. I wish that was all true. But it isn't. It isn't true. One thing I want to note though here, and this is a concern I often have with Bernie, I think we do have to touch upon it, is that, he goes on to say in the rest of the email that, Republicans will say they hate socialism, but they love socialism for the rich. Rugged individualism for the poor and the middle class and the working class. Socialism for the 1% and the 0.1%, the rich and wealthy and well-connected. And that's obviously borrowing from Martin Luther King, that kind of popularized that discourse, but it's wrong. Rich people don't want socialism for the rich. Rich people just want capitalism. And what capitalism does in any form, there's no such thing as crony capitalism. Capitalism is capitalism. What it does in any form is it socializes risk and privatizes profit. That's a much better way of explaining it. It's not socialism that the rich and wealthy and well-connected rig the game so they all win and everyone else loses. That's capitalism. That is capitalism. It's not corporate socialism. It's not crony capitalism. It's good old-fashioned capitalism working as intended from the very beginning. Anything else is a lie. It's about making sure that the public, that small taxpayers, that individuals bear the risk of corporations. And if they fail, we pay. And if they succeed, they profit. They win either way. They win in any case. They get bailouts if they lose, and they get tax cuts if they win. Simple as that. And so that's a much better way of explaining it. But on the whole, I love seeing Bernie Sanders continue to push this message. Bernie needs to keep saying these sorts of things because we can't allow people to just brazenly lie, of course, but we need to keep up the image, especially if we go towards November and Biden does win. I hope he does because he's better than Trump, that there are meaningful differences between Bernie Sanders, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, and the corporate wing of the Democratic Party. We would be so lucky if the squad and Bernie were running the show.